I am Linh Nguyen. I am the CEO and co-founder of IT-Conductor. And today I'm very excited to be presenting. And it's a combination of many, many years. I've been involved with SAP now my 33rd year, and been involved around technical basis, etc. And security has always been a challenge. So today, with the many things that have been developed over the years and combined now with AI, so advanced intelligence and our platform capability, I think it's time to talk about how we can help defend SAP customers against cybersecurity events, which are not always preventable, but they can be minimized. And so that's really what our effort is, to stay on top and be resilient. Being resilient means that to do everything you can with the tools and the resources you have to defend your company assets against cyber threats and security issues that maybe have a lot more impact than just financial, right? There's reputational damage, etc. So it's going to be interactive. I'm going to spend a little time going through presentation, and we have some interactive poll that we also will just get a pulse of how people are handling SAP cybersecurity as a whole. And then we'll go into a lot more interactive demo. So that's where I want to spend most of my time today, showing you around how we are approaching this kind of threat, and also very resource intensive area with SAP security. It's not really a one aspect. You might have something about SAP work, maybe upgrade, maybe performance. It's very focused. With security, it can be very widespread. So I want to make sure we spend the time to talk about each individual areas of concern. Okay. So again, happy to be here with you. And if you guys are not familiar with IT-Conductor, we are since 2014 are a online cloud platform that deals with performance management, automation, and today it's all about autonomous operations. We handle everything from performance over to day-to-day orchestration of business processes and technical IT processes. So have a whole end-to-end management around helping teams manage SAP, whether it's application level, database, OS, cloud, infrastructure, migrations, and compliance as well. So all of this will fit in nicely as we go through this. So just to get started here, we have the agenda, which we'll talk about a little poll just to get a pulse of where people are in terms of their confidence around SAP cybersecurity. I'll state what the problem is today related to security. And then throughout, we'll do a couple more polling questions, very simple stuff. And we're straight into the demo and talk about what are we doing in terms of an autonomous, what we think about autonomous and how that helps us to be more cyber resilient. And then we'll talk a little bit about what the platform services that are offered to help you in this space. And again, it doesn't matter what tools you have today or how you're approaching this. I think we all have different maturity. And we want to talk about the challenges, because these are what is being exploited by the bad actors today. Okay. So I have, again, I think for Q&A as well later on, if you guys have questions, you feel free to put in questions. Some of our team members online will be able to answer those as well. So go ahead. How confident are you in your organization's ability to detect SAP security threats before they impact business operation? Again, if you want to quickly fill out there, and then we'll share the poll. And again, it's not about preventing every threat out there, but it's about being able to, have the ability to show that you are doing compliance. So I'll share some of the results here a little bit. Somewhat confident, not confident. That's a pretty good. So if you're confident, that means you are prioritizing your company's, how important security is in your organization. Okay, so let's talk about. So the growing gap in security today is not really the shortage of tools, right? You have reports, you have manual processes that are looking through these reports, reviewing them. and then prioritizing, and then eventually remediating. What we do see is that because security transcends multiple teams, there are gaps between, let's say, enterprise security team, cybersecurity team, SAP security team, SAP basis team, SAP application folks, and then maybe quality assurance testing. So there's a lot of gaps there where it's slowing down the remediation effort from identification through to remediation and then validation, and then finally showing compliance in some kind of auditing report, right? We also see a lot of reactive, not very proactive. In terms of our customers, I've been involved in auditing customer, everything from, I don't know where to start. Here's my set of SAP Early Watch report pointing out a whole bunch of things around security I need to be looking at. Where do I start? Or every month I'm getting a whole bunch of SAP high priority hot news that needs to be patched, but I'm so far behind. It's not unusual. I've seen customers recently, last month, Patching Tuesday, they had a spreadsheet, they hired a consultant, they had like 6 months worth of backlog in Patching Tuesday notes, and they just are overwhelmed with where to get started with that, right? We also have issues about, customers have consultants, third-party system integrator, managed service providers, third-party independent that come in and, they may work on an upgrade, may work on a project, they leave, and there's accounts hanging out there, or maybe privileged accounts they use for their delivery that really should be password rotated or locked down, etc. These are all kind of risks that exist today, okay? Okay, so another poll there. Can we pop up this one? Which area creates your greatest SAP security concern today? I would say, for me, personally, both, right? You may not be directly responsible for platform security. That might be infrastructure team. But I think a lot of the SAP application code configuration, for me personally, but let's just see what the results are, and we can share some of this polling. Give it, okay. So just our audience here, we have a platform infrastructure, access application. Interesting. So platform, I'm assuming, operating systems, kernel, patching, database, that sort of stuff, right? Hop forward again and talk about the next questions. That'd be good to understand. How does your team today handle security remediation findings? So of course, there's never a shortage of finding information. It could be coming from sources outside your own small team, could be your enterprise security, it could be your hosting provider, could be SAP, whoever else. Interesting to know how you're approaching this today. So yeah, I think 43% mostly manual, 43% partial automated. Actually, we also send this survey out to some of our folks who couldn't attend today as well. It'd be good to kind of collect all this information. So actually, a very small amount is scheduled. So I think there's a combination of spectrum there. All right, so let's move forward. It's good to know that you guys are doing it in some manner. It doesn't matter where you start with the journey. It's important to get started and to identify the gaps you have in organization. So when I think about SAP cybersecurity, I don't think about just getting the signal or the alert, because that can come anytime. In fact, I think this morning or yesterday, I got a high priority SAP alert coming in my inbox about vulnerability, something that might be having a CVSS score of 7.5 above or something like that, right? So the detection area can come from telemetry of any sort, anywhere you may subscribe to your signal, right? But once you get that signal, whether it's in platform, whether it's in config code, access management, whatever, you need some kind of analysis, and the analysis will say, hey, what is the best practice to address this? For a CVE, it might be very obvious. It might be, what machines are impacted, and what is the fix, whether it's individual patch or kernel patch or a bundle patch or an upgrade of some sort. So this analysis is a decision area where you have to categorize the importance of the vulnerability. And if it's urgent, it may be you have only a short window to patch before you have a compliance issue. So then deciding, this is where we find out about how well the team works together. As I say, security can come in many shape or forms of the vulnerability. But if you're not aware and somebody is keeping track here in one spreadsheet, here's another one in another team, and you're just throwing over the fence, it's really hard to decide what to do next, right? So who is going to govern this from a compliance standpoint? Who's going to get priorities assigned, and who are the resources that's going to remediate? Because you might have segregation of duty in terms of finding and analyzing and also remediating. So we see that as a phase also you need to go through. And once you have that, now you have to remediate. So remediation means depending on the life cycle of each of those, right? So again, a platform security risk versus a code like an ABAP vulnerability, or maybe an authorization object, or maybe a configuration setting in your SAP parameters, something like that, or your kernel. They all have different life cycle, right? Some might take faster, some might take longer, some that may involve a patch that reboots the server will need to be scheduled outage and approved by the business. So, but the remediation needs to be always constant matching with your compliance, right? So if you find something like that, it goes onto its own tracking mechanism to make sure that you have trackability. And then once you've done the actual remediation, there's the verification, right? So it's not just once and done. You have a change record. You need to be able to track and say that this has been now remediated and now I'm in compliance. And you need to show that to your auditors, whether internal, external, how often you do that. So from IT-Conductor standpoint, we see all this as one end-to-end resiliency program, right? It's not separate things, because if you do one and not the other one, you're not going to get end-to-end results, and you're not going to make an efficient way to orchestrate your security processes. So we'll go through that, and I want to highlight a few things here about some demo we're coming up, just to give you context. Of course, I'll go straight to the demo soon here, but I want to give you context of the things that I'll show you so that you understand what fits in. So we approach this from kind of a global security, kind of consider it to be SecOps dashboards, where you have various different things, various findings, and then some analysis. You have also change management tracking of who's assigned with the ticket to remediate, what's the status of it. Then we'll get down to the system level as well. So we have compliance at the system. So obviously, if you're running, ECC, S4, or various different SAP landscape, you want to know how well that system is measuring up from a platform security, from a access control, from a configuration, and also, from a vulnerability standpoint as well, right? So what IT-Conductor does is we look at this and analyze that and associate some of these short-term plans. Like I say, if it's high priority, you want to patch within a few days, within a week maybe, and then trickle that to your other environment. If it's more intermediate, where maybe it's a setting requires some more testing, maybe there's some performance related impact as well. You need to do that, and then you need to test that and roll it out across different environments. Or something that's a little bit longer term, maybe enabling things like single sign-on or encryption. That takes a little bit longer, and that can go into a different life cycle. So that's kind of how we want to think about it. I wake up and I think about securities. I don't remember everything I need to do, right? So what we look at is the AI should be always on agent that look at this from a vulnerability and what is being done, what's been assessed, who's been assigned, and follows up. It doesn't get tired. It follows up until it's done, because otherwise you will slip and you will have this gap, and this gap becomes a risk, right? So we're talking about minimizing risk here. So some examples I will show in the demo as well will cover things like, perhaps a user is trying to get in, perhaps they forgot their password, you don't have single sign-on, they get locked out. These can sometimes just go unnoticed. They call help desk, they get whatever. But some of these might be a risk. So if somebody's trying to get in as a very high technical account, maybe SAPstar, DDIC, whatever, maybe on a database level, somebody's trying to get in on HANA, right, who has a higher privilege. Maybe they can export data or something like that. That's, kind of a user thing where we can automate the lockout so that we can say, hey, this is a activity somebody review, and then, oh, this user should not be able to get logged in because it's a system account only used for, say, maintenance purposes. That should get automated lockout, right? The patching itself, early on the platform kind of handling, there's a lot of people say about platform. Again, whether you do it or your other teams you work with do this, we see this to be the lagging, right? So OS get patched very, very infrequently. SAP kernel get patched sometimes, maybe every 3 months. And all of that, maybe database patches don't even get in for maybe 6 months or a year, or during your upgrade life cycle, maybe you do an enhancement pack or something update. So, but all of this has become important. So we look at this as well to automate, right? On the far right, interestingly, not a lot of people say this, but I find if I connect to do an audit for customer, this is where the number one area is that security notes. There are just so many outstanding in the system. And we may be talking about, some dozens, some hundreds in a system. And they're just not being analyzed, and they're not being assigned some kind of remediation or implementation. So we look at this as something you may do, maybe in sandbox development, but also tracking that throughout the process to get that completely into production. Remember, production is where all of your sensitive data is. So until that's patched all the way through production, you still have a risk. And so if we can move that along faster, will help you increase the resiliency. And again, after you do all that remediation, we'll show kind of like, of course, it's important to show reporting, audit compliance, patch. Yes, these things now, you patch in development and it's now moved to production, etc. So those are, some areas we'll show as well. And we'll talk about a little bit service at the end here, but essentially IT-Conductor, we don't see this is something that is fully automatable because some areas need decision-making. It also needs some analysis that are cross-team, or even remediation might involve a lot of steps that a lot of teams might be involved in. For instance, if you are updating something that affects a security profile for an SAP authorization object, you may need the application-focused security team to get involved to fully test it. But as much as possible, you should automate the things that could be automatable. And perhaps it's a goal where maybe you are 20% today and you want to get to 80%. And so 20% will be a little bit more manual, and that will reduce a significant amount of work, in our opinion, to do this kind of work. So let me talk about the service at the end, but essentially we are a platform as a service, and we can offer onboarding fully connected in terms of looking at the assessment, the recommendations, and then what could be automated, and then the actual compliance audit reporting. So it's always on. IT-Conductor Maestro is at the heart of what our AI generated content around how it does the analysis, how it follows up. Again, agents don't get tired, right? We create specific agent. So the agentic workflow will naturally behind the scene coordinate activities between your requests, what needs follow up, what needs to get automated, finds the appropriate tools and run those. We are an SAP native company. We are dealing with entire stack infrastructure end to end, but we are well inside SAP. We know exactly what's going on, what to talk to. We have been in the monitoring business for many years and automating processes. So looking at lots of SAP related processes, we're familiar with that, right? So at the end of the day, what you want to do is that, hey, I want to be able to move from where I am today and maybe get 50% there in 6 months, whatever your specific requirement, your environment, everybody's different. We can help address the gaps there. So at this point, there is kind of one more before I get into the demo. So what would most accelerate your SAP security operation next 12 months? It's kind of a cheat because I'm asking this before I show you what is possible. And, I think I have some results. I got 40%. I got okay. Automate detection. Okay, AI-driven analysis. Also, that's good. That's important. Deployment patch. Yeah. Unified dash. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for participating there, and we will hop into our next level of presentation. I will end the slideshow. Okay, so as I said before, let's explain what the environment is. I'm going to spend most of my time in here, and I want to be cognizant of your time. If we go a little bit over, etc., if you have questions, feel free to put them up. But so what you're looking at is, this is IT-Conductor. So assume this is your environment. On the far right, we have all the different systems that we connect to and monitor and manage and automate, right? So you can see the whole slew of applications. So pretty much cover most, if not all, of the SAP and surrounding technical stack, right? From here, you also have, areas that we automate recovery. If we find something like a user lockout, something we will address that, we automatically will issue the policy-based driven recovery action for that. And then you have your overview of your system. Now, part of the environment, just because it's security related, doesn't mean you bypass certain things like health checks and stuff like that, okay? Because in order to patch a system, for instance, if you want to do an OS patch, you got to make sure you have file system space, et cetera, et cetera. So inherently, the automation should at least do a health check before and after for you. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next level to show you what a compliance dashboard looks like. So this is security and compliance desk. So imagine now I am going to do the role of day in the life of SAP SecOps, and I'm the orchestrator, right? I'm looking at this and saying, what are some areas I'm looking at? I have different systems that I need to be in compliance. I have different categories of items I'm tracking, right? Whether it's remediation, is it new vulnerability? Are there existing remediation actions that's following on? So this is keeping track, helping you stay on top. But behind the scene, it's powered by our Maestro AI intelligent service desk. So it's a customer support agent that deals with security specifically, right? So with this compliance desk, you can go in and look at what's going on, vulnerability, things that are affected. So here I see a few things. For instance, let's just say there's a high CVE. And how do we get all this? And I will actually step sideways a little bit to show you. IT-Conductor can get signal from any source. So today, we are scanning the NIST database along with some specific CVE database all the time, meaning regularly. And then we are finding new CVEs. So you don't wait for, SAP Patch Tuesday, whatever. So this is directly with the NIST, which is maintain the CVE database compliance. We find appropriate CVEs, we associate them into your environment. So for instance, in SAP, of course, you get the application level, you got the database level, and you got the OS level, platform level, right? And these are constantly being analyzed. And then if we see they are relevant, we will actually create tickets and associate those tickets to the machines that are impacted. So if you see that, you can go back to, so as example, that's how IT-Conductor knows that, hey, there is a vulnerability here. And it's not important all the details here, but let's say we find that there's CVEs, several CVEs listed here that are affecting our prod systems. we can go down and say, as a SecOps admin, I'm going to say, hey, create me remediation tickets for my system. These are actual our systems running SAP, and these are the OS they're on. We all monitor the kernel, whatever rev you're on, and then we can create the remediation for those tickets. So what our AI is going to do is create individual tickets, and those tickets will get assigned to whoever support I can tell assigned to somebody, and then that will get done, right? So as an example, if we find a system that gets impacted, as we do from our constant run, I'll show you an example. For instance, we had a highly prioritized CVE that affects one of the Linux systems. What we do is we actually assign a ticket and we automate the remediation of that, right? So let's say, for instance, here, one of our S4 HANA 2023 system was found to be behind on a certain CVE. We assigned a ticket, right? And the ticket, this is the actual AI that does the analysis of the ticket and say what you need to do. So in the beginning, we actually say, all right, let's go ahead. It's been authorized, patch this particular OS, right? So I'll show you on the platform side, it says here, patch this, and it took 17 minutes, success. It will follow up and say the patch of the kernel needs to be actually schedule reboot to fully enable the patch, right? So how does this thing automate work? So behind the scene, what we have is we have our system maintenance dashboard. And you can see here that that host there has an activity that was part of the ticket. So the engineer will associate the remediation to the patching of this kernel. So we actually have automation that can go and say, these are available patches available for the kernel. Go ahead, right? And so it goes through the workflow. It does patching of the kernel, and then whether you select it to reboot or not. So if this is production, you want to make sure that you can coordinate this and skip the reboot for now, reboot at a maintenance window. So we actually do this for the workflow, and then you can go in and coordinate. For instance, we have fully implemented orchestration for system restart. So SAP is not straightforward where you just patch and restart. You have application running on it, right? And that server belongs to one of the servers, and we have ability to then orchestrate the full shutdown of the application database, and if optionally reboot the server as needed. Even if you have clusters, it can coordinate the failover or put it in maintenance mode and do this kind of work. So this is what we do from automation standpoint, is we actually can automate systems that need to be taken down and patched and restarted, right? So that's part of the automation. So that's one example where we've done kernel patching. And if you haven't restarted, the AI agent will continue to follow up and say, look, you haven't confirmed it's not being rebooted. Schedule your reboot to fully activate that kernel, right? So it's an example of a remediation. So we talked about kind of a platform patching, but what if, it's an SAP kernel patching? As we find out from some of our analysis, we have a security analysis. So we have both Windows and Linux environment. It's an SAP system running on Windows and SQL Server. Earlier on, when we do the analysis, we have found that this system needs a new kernel, SAP kernel, right? So from a SAP kernel, again, you need to download the kernel, test the kernel, patch the kernel, and then from there on, you follow up to make sure the system gets restarted and becomes compliant on whatever kernel patch level you have. So from that point on, we actually have patching of the SAP kernel on the Windows system. Again, following what we do in our automation, you can assign this ticket. You have an automation playbook already that will go into and say, hey, I want to patch the OS, right? So here is the workflow to patch the SAP kernel. And this is actually the workflow, right? We basically back up the old kernel, download the new kernel, extract the kernel, and then restart the system, etc. So all of this can get automated, and you can have one system, many systems. It doesn't matter. The automation can be on demand or scheduled, right? And it can be done based on your approval of the ticket that's been assigned to somebody for remediation. And so that's where you get back to platform compliance, kernel updates. And then it follows up and say, hey, you've initiated and you're pending the security or the reboot or whatever the task is at hand. So these are remediation, and then AI, the Maestro, will actually follow up to make sure you complete that, right? And you can have that compliant ticket out of the way. So from a platform standpoint, we've talked about the actual patching of the OS, patching of the kernel, restarting it, coordinating that, orchestrating that, right? I want to go to the next level, which is we're talking about the kind of common vulnerability of the code and configuration, because we talk about platform, but the code configuration, a lot of that comes through, for instance, the SAP level CVE from your S nodes. So what we do is we have a compliance dashboard for S nodes. We've automated the SAP Security Notes with the SAP systems that we integrated with. So for instance, you see here in our S-Node dashboard, these are the systems we connect to. We analyze the nodes every day. We will tap into SAP. We will pull down automatically the nodes into your system, right? And then the nodes will go through some level of automation or semi-automation to see if they're relevant or not relevant, and then assessed against the system for compliance. So I guess a week and a half ago, we had the Patching Tuesday. So for instance, we went through a Patching Tuesday, and we went through compliance and said, what are things for this Patching Tuesday in June I want to talk about? So let me click the, okay, I think we have a compliance. There's a compliance, okay, there's compliance. So you have multiple systems, and then you have security compliance based on the actual, so I'm gonna go pick one of these. I think actually, let's say. So we can have our compliance ticket and have our AI analyze all the nodes in the systems that we've already, as I said, downloaded automatically, right? Instead of you going in and manually assessing which node, because the customers today I see doing this on spreadsheets. These can be automatically analyzed, prioritized, and then you can even say, create me remediation tickets for these nodes, right? And what happened then, you can assign that to somebody. They do, the nodes can be somewhat, semi-automatic, automatic, etc. But it requires the engineer to actually implement the node, right? And then from that node on, you get the assessment of all the other things that are impact. So we do this proactively as often as you like. So at least daily, for instance, right? So from a daily standpoint, then how does that translate to actual orchestration end to end? So we talk about the detection, the analysis, and then the decision who's what you're going to patch. So we come out of this remediation tickets, right? So remediation tickets is like, for instance, remediate this node, blah, blah, blah. We have some that has been remediated in here already, for instance. So the remediation tickets will actually have something like, here's the SAP node, right? Here's what the impact is. Here's the analysis of it. What are the steps to do this? And what happened is with IT-Conductor, because we have change management involved in automating the transport, you typically will remediate in your sandbox or your development test it, and then transport that. You don't actually do the node implementation in production, right? So what we do have is you can see that there's a transport request that are associated with this node implementation. And what we do then is we have our change automation intelligence, we call it CHI. We fully automate the transport of SAP within the landscape. So instead of going through SDMS or CHAM or whatever you want to use at this point, IT-Conductor has the capability to coordinate this change. So you see all these transports. These are transports related to remediation. So OZ1 is our kind of dev system. ITC is our production system, S4 environment. You see that these transports themselves were remediation transports, right? And they have been fully orchestrated. So let's say you have 50 nodes. Individually, the nodes create transports. You can combine these transports in a mass transport if you got approval to do that, or you can have one transport at a time. Essentially, the transport can get created and the transport gets moved. So you can see that the full transport gets imported in. You have full import log. You can see objects, whatever got imported in. Just you don't have to get into doing this manually. So what happens in a compliance scenario, you might have 20 high priority security nodes. You want to be able to combine them or individually track them for audit purposes and show that you are compliant. So after you do this, IT-Conductor, it will follow up and say something has been moved or not moved. So it constantly check and say, yeah, this transport now has been moved and now you're in compliance status, right? So for instance, I can rerun or can actually have automatically Maestro rerun a compliance check. So that is something we do today. We say SAP Security Notes for patching Tuesday, blah, 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 right? Go ahead and do all that. So I have a full log here of all nodes that are found in the system downloaded that are applicable to the environment. It will give you a plan on which one to address, right? And we create, again, I can from here say create new tickets assigned to a certain engineer, and that will get automatically assigned and route through the workflow, right? So this gets you in compliance a lot faster. And then after you're done, you can say, tell the Maestro, hey, go ahead and rerun, make sure the systems are checked against the actual implementation status of the node, and that will get done automatically through there. And so this entire report here is what we would, if you want to show auditors that, hey, for patching Tuesday in June, I'm in compliance, you want to basically have it automatically analyzed, prioritized, assign tickets, get remediated, go through change automation, transported, and then you can get reports that come out that we can actually, you can PDF this and send to auditors. So it knows, it checks the system here that these nodes have been already implemented. It knows, it goes in there and it checks the system against the status of the node, right? So we have kind of closed that loop between detection, which is when SAP announced the node, when we automatically put a node down, analyze against system to see if it's applicable. Once it's applicable, we can assign to be implemented. And then from there, follow on for change automation to go through the other environment and then revalidate running the audit report afterwards. So that's kind of the kind of a process we go through. For code config, you see a lot of security notes, whether it's code or whether it's authorization objects. We look at that. So you can see back in our notes overview here, all of these systems. This was actually 93 on patching Tuesday. Now we're back down to only 5 or 6, the new ones that we automatically assess in the system. This was like 113 or something. So you can see, so as long as nodes are implementable, remember, security nodes don't require like application analysis because they're fixing a vulnerability. They don't affect the functionality. So you should be able to move it through quickly, right? If it says can be implemented, then assign these to a ticket, have it workflow, and then have it tracked, and then have a change management process though. So you can be compliant very quickly with this. That's one. And I want to go to, so we talk about the kind of code compliance a little bit. Look a little bit about the configuration. So from configuration also, we can run full analysis of SAP parameters, for instance, and talk about where we have compliance related to parameter for hardening. So in SAP today, IT-Conductor can collect and monitor all your SAP active parameters. So let's say you have production with 3 app servers and you want to keep track for security purposes, settings, etc. IT-Conductor can analyze these security settings against best practices, make recommendations, right? For instance, hey, you have a parameter that's should be set to not allow SAP star to get relayed and people can log in with default password, right? You might have virus scan issues if you're not running your virus scanners, etc. All of these are parameters, things like scripting enable. So again, there's like 1,700 parameters in S4 today on 2023 level. It's almost impossible for human to go through and look all the parameters. But what we've done is we've actually baseline with snapshot, we tag those, we can send through for analysis, and then we can raise tickets to track, right? So I've created tickets from this saying, make sure that this parameter gets shut down on the system and assign it to an engineer to do that, right? So this is from a parameter analysis. We do the same thing. Little time check here, we're up on there, but let's bear with me a little bit longer if you could. We also do similar thing at the HANA level, right? So from HANA, we also look at the database and say configuration. So if we do a mini check level, we are able to, again, run analysis, get parameters, right? And do the complete check of HANA and say, tell me, from analysis where I have some areas of concern. So we actually can look at things like, oh, your system users not deactivated. This typically best practice when I go audit HANA, I always find this customer leave system open, which is a security risk, and they really shut it down only for maintenance. They should activate. This is where we have automation. And this is, in this case, we actually can say, hey, go shut down this. So from this perspective, again, back to our automation, you can say shut down a HANA user, deactivate a user, right? So for instance, here, we actually can activate the activate user, again, using workflows automated and say, hey, shut down. And then if you need this for, applying a patch or something, importing a delivery unit, whatever, we can then open up that user. But this is all the control, all the compliance. It's auditable. You can actually say when this user got activated, not activated, right? So this is from configuration management. We actually can analyze configuration at any level. OS, we have all kernel parameters, database, config, application, and it goes through the cycle. And again, the agent doesn't get tired. I can tell it to do this every day. If you open this parameter today, it will know about it, right? One area I want to visit that we haven't talked about is access control as well. We talk about platform security, we talk about code config, and then from the access standpoint, right? Everybody knows about audit logs. Who has time to look at audit logs every day, right? So if I'm looking at this and say, hey, I have security audit logs in the system, give me analysis of the events that are critical I need to worry about. So this is, again, an autonomous thing where I can tell this agent, constantly analyze my SAP security audit logs. It found this morning, today's date, this test user tried to log in several times, password failed, got locked out. Is this normal, not normal? That's for your SecOps team to decide, but it should be flagged, it should be highlighted, and it should be a high priority. What if this is an actual hack, right? You want to know where it's coming from. It can detect things like, oh, certain users are coming in unencrypted on the GUI, so you don't have SNC configured, all these things. And then all the other auditable events, you can see here, I was in here this morning, assigning, changing security, log settings. So these, once you set the audit, what the type of audit you want, right? We can get this, we can analyze it, right? And we can send and alert you when there's detection of areas that need further attention. Even if you have people coming in, let's say through VPN, or you find suspicious IP address coming into your system, we can analyze this and say, hey, you know what? Send this over to network security. Is this a valid VPN IP subnet, or is it something that we need to look into? All right, so this is at the application level. We have access control, we can shut down users, we can change, we can notify, we can do many actions that can minimize the exposure once we detect that. But this detection can happen, can be checked very frequently, right, automatically. And one last area I want to show, similar to this, is at the database level, right? So for database level, you also have audit logs. So let's say, so at the HANA level, you have audit logs as well. So we enable, by default, customer and production need to enable audit logging, right? So for that, you can see things like yesterday, there was a system user granting privilege to somebody, import, export, into user, this user, that user. These are areas today that are really hard because if you don't have something that's looking at audit log from database, you might have a third-party package doing extract. You might have middleware. You might have failure in logins, etc. Things might fail. If you turn on auditing at HANA and create the right policies, we will get that data and we will analyze it. And then we will send you alerts or give you actions. Oh, I need to shut this guy down because he shouldn't be having this privilege, etc. So from this standpoint, Maestro is coordinating. It's always on. Security agent is looking, summarizing, finding, and then recommending for you. Right. Again, this is coming in source IP address coming into to HANA as well that needs to be analyzed. So I think at this point, I want to kind of stop here. I've covered a lot of things, but essentially from platform security through to code configuration, through to change management, and then also access control management and awareness around the security auditing. So what we see as a security compliance desk is to orchestrate the end-to-end process from detection through to the analysis and then the remediation and follow-up policies. And then we can essentially show that, hey, for the systems I have under my purview, I can confidently show reports that show from the time they detect to the time that's remediated, it's in compliance with whatever policies I might have at the shop. So this is kind of where I'm going to pause. I've covered a lot of things. I could get into more, but we have also automated things like as I said, the transport, but we also have, I think we have another security area where you're downloading a lot of patches. A lot of things can go wrong. People download it to laptop, upload to server to patch. That's actually a security risk, not only to mention from a volume, you're transferring files from all over the place. SAP makes it a point that, you self-sign or SAP sign the actual patches, make sure it is not code injection somewhere. So we have this team download manager. So if you add it to your basket, some of our engineers got assigned to do kernel patching, added dispatch work package to their download basket. IT-Conductor will monitor download basket for your team, pull it down to a central location, your software repo, and make sure that it's deduplicated. You don't download many files and then you have a space issue and then you never purge it after you use it. This is also a problem for security, right? So it could happen the same thing with trace files. SAP trace file, we run audit, we find lots of trace files that are actually security risk. We have file monitor, file watcher can detect those, and it should be that somebody alerted to clean up the patch, the trace files. But in this case here, you can see that, Winsome here downloaded kernel, right? So now once it's downloaded, you don't do it on your desktop, not your GUI. IT-Conductor does it through our backend as team download manager, provide that software safely to your repo. It doesn't transfer through the network, and it goes behind the scene with SAP support backbone to do that. So that's an area I wanted to show as well. So last but not least, where do we go from here? Again, there's an open call. I've covered a lot of things depending on where you are in your maturity level. If you want to talk to us about where we can help, plug in some of the gaps and hopefully narrow, make you more resilient. We have officially launched our SecOps in the SAP Cybersecurity Resilience Program, really to help cover all of these things that I discovered during the webinar. Monitor CVEs, real-time notes, real-time, go compliant on security audits, prioritize them, and then action them through our intelligent AI Maestro, which can coordinate, follow up, even assign work, and then even kick off automation to run some of that, close the security gaps there. So if you like to reach out, feel free to reach out to me. There's actually a page where we go next. I think from here I can show you this point. So we can do a security assessment. We are an agentless platform. We can connect securely, whether you're on-prem, you're in cloud, you're hybrid, you're RISE, doesn't matter. We can run an assessment pretty quickly, give you where you are today as your security stand, and then draw up a plan where you need to be or where you want to be and what the time frame looks like and what the effort to get there. But a lot of this is coordinated platform with intelligence end-to-end to do what we call SOAR, security, orchestration, automation, and remediation, right? So that's what we are focused on to make sure that you stay resilient in the age of AI and cyber criminals. So whether you are a customer, you're a managed service provider, thinking this could apply to your end customers, please come talk to us or just share a pain point. Maybe we didn't cover something that's important to you. IT-Conductor can always look at the scenario and see whether we can help automate some of that. All right, folks. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Take care.